excited.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Purposeful Wisdom Podcast. It's yours truly, Dawn Christine. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Please remember to like, share, subscribe to the channel. As you guys know, this is a healing platform for those who are looking for guidance and wisdom in their lives. And I am super, super excited for today's special guest. I have with me here Cari Roy. She is New Orleans psychic medium. She's a third generation spiritual practitioner, making very fertile ground for in her own abilities to develop. Miss Roy is featured in documentaries about psychic development. She's published many articles, is referenced in many books, and is in demand for private readings, special events, and speaking engagements. She is named the #1 psychic medium to see in New Orleans by travelchannel.com, you guys, and is recommended best psychic medium to see in the USA by bbcamerica.com. She has been featured on the Today Show, A&E, Discovery Plus, biography and travel channels, local and national news, and she's recognized as New Orleans' most accomplished psychic medium. Cari, thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure to meet you and to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's great to connect with you, and it's nice to connect with all of your listeners and bring a little New Orleans out into the podcast sphere.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I can't wait to dive in with you. I read your bio, I've researched you. I think it's phenomenal that you have this gift. And first and foremost, I would love to know, when did you discover you had these abilities?
I was pretty young when I discovered these abilities. I would say around 7, 8 years old, it was starting to be a thing that I was having dreams that would come true. I was seeing things that people couldn't see but me. My first big experience was with my mother, and we were here on Royal Street in the French Quarter. And it was during the summer, probably around this time of year, because I remember it was so hot and it was very empty. The streets, there weren't a lot of people because it's so hot here in the summers. And all of a sudden, I went from seeing nobody to seeing what looked like hundreds of people. And it was so much that I fainted. And when I came to, I didn't see the people anymore. And my mother started asking me what had happened. And I described what I experienced. And that's when she knew for sure that I had the abilities to. My mother was also a reader and a medium. My grandfather was a numerologist and an astrologer. So it was somewhat of an accepted thing in my family.
Right. Oh my gosh. And like after you came to, how did your mom help you understand these gifts?
Well, what she did was really wonderful in that she taught me how to turn it off. And she spent a lot of time with me trying to kind of train me to be able to shut it off when I needed to, because having it on all the time just gets too overwhelming and intrusive. And so she was really good about that. She would, take me a couple steps as far as strengthening it, but she always wanted me to know that it was something that I could control and that it didn't have to take me over. And I'm always so thankful to her, bless her heart, where she is now, and the help that she gave me when she was here in this world.
Oh, I love that. And that's so beautiful that your mom helped you embrace these gifts, because let's face it, people couldn't talk about these things 10 years ago. And it's always hush hush. And I'm sure even for your mom's generation, a lot of people didn't believe in this. They called it woo-woo stuff and all these things. And
Yeah.
I never saw it as that. I think it's so beautiful and such a gift to be able to connect to souls, to spirits that are trying to reach their loved ones back here on this plane. And for your mom to embrace that and encourage you, I think is such a beautiful, beautiful thing.
It was really a wonderful experience growing up with her, and having that validated, where I believe so many people, even in my generation, I'm in my 60s now, and before, I would say, the 20 years, it really was something that people didn't talk about at all. I mean, you might hear things about angels, but that was as far as it went. Some astrology, but it really wasn't accepted the way it is now. And I think it was, so when I was younger, kind of coming up, we were like the weird family, because my mother would have seances, and everybody kind of knew that if they wanted to get a card reading or something like that, that I was the house that you could go and get something like that done in. And so it had a little bit of a stigma to it when I was coming up. It's much, much better now.
Oh, absolutely. Because people are being more open-minded about these things and knowing that, I strongly believe that we all have some sort of psychic ability. I really
Yeah.
do feel that. I think we as humans, we forget that we are light beings and we are capable of so much. And a lot of us forget that we have the ability to tap into these abilities and embrace it. What do you say to people that, me included, are trying to develop these abilities on their own and understand that it's, yes, there's boundaries, as you mentioned before, of turning it off and turning it on, but how would you encourage people to be more optimistic about the actual chances that they could develop these abilities themselves?
Well, I too believe that everybody is innately psychic, and everybody is innately intuitive. I feel everybody has that ability. The difference between me and somebody else is that I've been using that ability every day for over 40 years. Well, more than that at this point, if you count my training part of it. And so it's like a muscle. You have to use it. It's like a relationship too. You've got to build it.
Right.
The same way that relationships require trust. We need to build that trust between us and our conscious mind and our psychic mind, that is there to kind of guide us through situations and connect us with everything that I would see, you could see. But one of the things that I really talk about these days is just how noisy the world is right now. It is so
Yes.
noisy, between social media, texting, news. There's no real quiet time that we have anymore. And so
Agreed.
the first thing I suggest is meditation.
Yes. Huge. I meditate every night. Every
It's
night.
so important. Yeah.
Absolutely. You have to quiet the mind. I mean, we're getting stimulated from all angles. Fear is being instilled into our brains, even though we're not really aware of it,
Oh,
subconsciously.
yeah.
There's fear, there's doubt, there's, denial of one's own abilities, things that hold us back. And to just be is the most blissful thing you can do for yourself, to just clear the clutter.
I completely agree. It allows you to hear that still small voice within. And when you hear it, it really will give you the answers that you need. I mean, it really, that voice, that guidance, that inner intuitive self is there for you at any time. It's there to assist us to have the best life that we possibly can.
Absolutely. I think it's, for a lot of people, they're always looking for answers from others, and I believe we all are here to help each other and, help push the boundaries of healing as a whole. We're here to help, we're here to serve. But at the end of the day, the answer is truly within yourself. And all you need to do is sit quietly in silence and just be in tune with your emotions, your feelings, what your body feels, and really tap into that, where deep down you'll find the answers you're searching for.
Oh, 100%. I think that what a psychic does the best is to help somebody remember things that they already know inside them. We all get lost in the situations that we're in, and we lose objectivity because we're involved in the situations. A psychic just really has that bird's eye view, that objectivity that is so necessary to help people to really, again, remember the answers that are already within them.
I love that. I love that answer, Cari. Now, moving on to, I know that you have made a huge impact, especially in New Orleans, your hometown, just embracing the culture, embracing what is. And I know you've helped people on your documentaries, everything from lost souls, and sometimes just hurt souls that are stuck. What can you tell me as how these lost souls get stuck on this plane and not rise to something higher, the greater of passing over to the afterlife? What's the difference?
Well, there are a couple of contributing factors in this. One of the things for New Orleans is we are very Catholic. We are so Catholic. We are raised believing we're going to go to hell if we break any of the 10 Commandments. That is drilled into our culture. And so there are some souls that if they've broken one rule, are so frightened that they're going to be condemned to hell that they do not cross because of that reason. That is really, you find that a lot. They're just terrified that they are not going to be met with love on the other side. And so what you do in those instances is you really try to, get them to see the spirits of the ones that really loved them, that are there to bring them to the other side. But sometimes that can make a spirit stuck. Another thing that I've noticed after doing this for forever now is that I believe that spirit experiences time very differently than we do. I think that to spirit, it could be, for us, it's 300 years. For spirit, that could feel like 3 hours. I think their perception of time is completely different. And so sometimes it's a surprise for the spirit to hear that they've been gone for 100 years or that it's been 150 years, because to them, they are still in that present moment and they haven't quite figured out that it's time for them to go.
Wow. And it's almost like, because the fear, which is crazy, because I know we're conscious beings. So even when we leave our bodies, we're conscious. We until we cross over, we still experience those emotions, right? But
Yeah.
I think it's kind of beautiful in a way where even though the spirit is walking amongst our plane, it's almost like their loved ones are a way for them to reassure that it's okay to cross over. And really, with, I think, or maybe, maybe in a way, if they knew, like, hey, you can kind of just go back and that point, like, to reassure them, I'm sure that probably helps them
It
know
does.
that it's not like you keep, because once you're there, you're everything. So how, like, do you play a role in that as far as talking to these lost souls and reassuring them that
Oh,
they
yeah.
can go back and forth?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I've cleared many properties in the course of my career as a psychic medium, where I've gone in, connected with spirit. You always have to determine whether the situation really is right for them to cross, because sometimes they just aren't ready. And so you don't force that. What you do is you give them the alternative and you let them know that they can cross. One thing that I learned that's very interesting is never tell a spirit to go to their family. Tell them to go to those who love them, because not every family member has a good experience with another family member, and they might be afraid of going to, say, if there was an abusive family member. You don't want to tell a spirit to go to that family member you don't know. So what I've learned to say is to go to those who love you. Go to
Oh,
those spirits who are there, who love you. And yeah, you give them a choice and let them know that they can go, and once they get there, that then they can come back and they can move with freedom. It's just a little reassurance, but I don't push them out, because some of them, that's their home, and until
Right.
they're ready to go, I just don't feel right with pushing them out unless they're
Right.
causing a lot of concerns. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and it is still a choice. We all have a choice. So I think that's wonderful that you also respect their boundaries while they're deciding what to do and all those things that are keeping them here. Now, how I'm sure you have helped others that have crossed over even connect to their loved ones who have passed. And I could only imagine how healing not only is it for the person still left on this plane, but for the soul to have reassurance that they have a way to communicate with their loved ones back on this plane. Like, could you describe what that is and how healing that is for people?
It's so healing. For those that are still here, who have lost loved ones, and feel so lonely without them. It is a very healing process to be able to, tell them and share with them things and messages that come from that spirit world. It gives validation to them that love really never does die. And even though
Right.
they feel alone here, they are not really alone. And for the spirits can communicate to us all the time. I mean, they do. They're whispering in our ears constantly. But I think for
Absolutely.
spirit worries about us, not worry in the sense that we would experience worry, but spirit can have concern about a loved one who is stuck in that grief process. And so to be able to help shift that with somebody, spirit, the loved one who has passed, has a sense of relief, has a sense of release, even that their loved one isn't just stuck in that grief cycle here.
Right, absolutely. And I think, and that's why for me, I truly believe that we can tap into these abilities because, not too long ago, my father passed. And to be honest with you, we didn't
So
have a
sorry.
we didn't have a close relationship on this plane, but there was a bittersweetness to his passing for me. I felt a sense of relief because then I
Yeah.
knew that the ego was gone, that he would be able to understand and see me as his daughter for me. And I had the opportunity to now create a beautiful relationship with my dad that I never had on this plane before. And so, I talk to him often. I feel I hear him whispering in my ear sometimes, but it's just this bliss of just knowing that ego is gone and all the things that make humans humans on this plane, it's all gone. There's no judgment. He has a sense of peace, and that
Yeah.
gave me a sense of peace. And just to know that that never goes away is such a beautiful thing for people to realize, that we don't, our bodies go, but who we are lives forever. And that if you really truly tap in, you could connect to your loved ones. They're never far from you.
Absolutely. They are with us. I say that spirit travels at the speed of thought. And
Oh,
so if we can think about our loved one, and just by thinking about them, it kind of sends out like a beacon that lets them know that we need them with us, and they're right there in an instant. All you need to do is think about your loved one, and they have the ability to be right there with you.
I love
Um,
that.
I often wonder if it isn't the loved ones letting us know that they're around us when we do think about them. And I have loved ones who have been passed for decades, and they still come into my life as strongly as they did when they had just passed, because love just never goes away. It's a
Right.
constant, it's eternal. It truly is.
Absolutely. And then just a sense of peace, just knowing that they're okay and that you're okay and you still have this connection. It's just love. You're right. Love never fades. It never dies. Love is love. It lasts forever. And I think that's just in itself so peaceful and blissful and healing for people to know that,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
thank you for that, for answering that. I often throw a little monkey wrench into my interviews. I would love to know something that people wouldn't know about you, a hobby, something you do for extracurricular that is not part of your career. What's something that people don't know about you?
That I shoot a really good game of pool.
Whoa.
That's something. I'm pretty good at trivia and Jeopardy. But I do play a really good game of pool, and it's a way that I can unwind because it's a very simple thing to do. Hit the ball into the hole. It's
Right.
I deal with a
I,
lot of complex stuff as a reader, and so that's a very simple thing to do. I'm also,
absolutely.
yeah, it's completely non sequitur to what it is that I do professionally. But I also love music. Music is what helps heal me. From a long day of doing readings with people, people often ask me, are you drained? Does it drain you? And what really helps fuel me back up is music. And
I
so
love that.
that's my escape.
That's mine too, as well. And that you answered my next question, because I often, could only imagine that we're energy, and for you to make that connection to other energies is literally draining you,
Yeah.
and music is the key to the soul as far as I'm concerned. Music can set the mood for anything. You can feel things you want to feel with music, depending on the genres you listen to and the type of music. It can set the tone for everything. And music has always been my scapegoat. A good song can just boost your energy and make you feel amazing. Or if you need to tap into a certain emotion, music allows that. So, what other things do you do besides music? Do you ever sit down and just snuggle up with some covers under a nice cozy blanket and read? And how do you ground yourself, as far as keeping yourself grounded throughout this process, because you're so busy doing this? I can only imagine day after day that it does take a toll on you sometimes.
It really does. But I'm very fortunate in that I've learned to not keep people's pain. I can experience it, I can understand it, but it's not mine to keep. And I think readers need to understand that we definitely are the empaths and the compassionate ones and are open to people's pain. And as a good reader, you do need to feel that pain, but you just can't keep it. Don't hold on to it. Let it go. When that reading is over, just let it go. And I do baths like that are, on the new moon and on the full moon.
Yes.
I bathe more frequently than that, but that's when I do like what I call my spirit baths.
Spirit pass. Me too.
Yeah,
Guilty. Guilty. I
great
throw my
stuff.
crystals out. Like, I do all of that. I charge
Yeah,
my crystals. I do moon water. I do a
yeah,
spiritual cleanse, because
yeah.
water is cleansing. It's releasing.
So cleansing, so cleansing.
I love that.
That's just great stuff to do. I have a good grounding and centering meditation that I've been doing for years. And I do that a couple times a week just to reconnect and make sure that I'm centered. So that's something that I recommend that people do. Find a good grounding and centering meditation and do that a couple times a month. Uh, I
Absolutely.
I like incense. I like candles.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love cuddling with my pets. Animals are wonderful healers, and
Yes.
they can sense when we're drained and just love us back.
Unconditionally too, with no conditions. That's what I love about my emotional support cat. She's great for
Yay!
that. She really
Yeah.
is. There's no expectation. She just, if I'm having a bad day, I know she senses it and she'll come
Yeah.
cuddle and it's just pet me, love me. And it's just like, wow, I never knew that just petting an animal can just lower your stress levels. And
Oh, yeah.
when you're really connecting and people just see it sometimes as a pet, but it's more than that. It really is.
Oh, so much. They are little healers. I truly believe that they're healers for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I love that. And, do you ever feel like, has there ever been a time, especially when you were first learning to shut things off and on, where like people, like souls just came to you all at once and you were like, what do I do? Or who do I talk to first? Like, how do you ever just walk down the street and someone just appears and is like
Um,
trying to get your attention or?
Not as much anymore. Not as much anymore, because you really can't walk around being open like that all the time, or you'll just go crazy. I think one of the reasons that I've been able to be a professional psychic medium for, it's going to be 40 years soon, is that I have learned to say no when something is intrusive. You really have to create those boundaries. You have to do that psychic self-protection. That's not meaning that I'm cold or that I'm not interested in helping every single soul, but we all do have limits. And so in order to be able to serve those that I do connect with and read, I have to protect my own energies and my own gifts so that I can really give my best and have it at 100% when I do have a client and sit down and turn that on.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you because I mean, my friend tells me all the time, Dee, she's like, if we wouldn't allow it for ourselves from a human, we shouldn't allow it for a soul either. Like we have to have our
Yeah.
boundaries and let people know, like, okay, when I'm sleeping, I'm sleeping. When
Yeah.
I'm in the shower, I'm in the shower. When I'm having personal time, it's personal time, like no denied, all these things because it's true. We have to protect ourselves and our energy, and boundaries are huge. And I know that the other side respects that and understands that for
Oh,
sure.
absolutely. Absolutely, they do. They're not here to pressure us. They're not here to make us feel uncomfortable. The majority of spirit communication and connection that we have are really loving, beneficent spirits who are there watching over us.
Absolutely. Do you do you think, or do you know for sure, are there dark spirits on walking around our plane, or is there such thing as a dark spirit, or?
There are broken souls, there definitely are broken souls. We see them amongst the living. And just because you cross doesn't mean that you're finished with all of your work. I had a near-death experience after Katrina. It wasn't Katrina related. It just was coincidentally right after Katrina. But I made it pretty far in this near-death experience. And one of the things that really stood out to me is that I was asked if I was a giver or a taker. And as soon as I was asked that question, I knew that was like the most important. That was the $6 million question. And I said, I'm not perfect, but I'm definitely a giver and not a taker. And at that moment, I started weeping for the people that were the takers because I felt that they were going to have a different experience than I had initially. I felt that I was going to go to a place that I call the happy place. And I was going to the happy place. And one of the reasons that it was called the happy place is that takers aren't there. Takers have to come to terms with what they did when they did walk this world until they can go to the next level. So to answer the question, I do think that I don't believe hell per se, but I do believe that I call it the recovery room. And that's where I think broken souls need to go to get right with themselves and with the universe.
That's really interesting that you say that, because, I was raised as a little girl Catholic too. So
Yeah,
it was the same, thing. You do right, you do everything, you go to heaven. If you do wrong,
yeah,
I mean, you even get thrown like, if you disobey your parents, you're going to hell. That's how that I was
sure.
raised. It was like, it was scared into me. And
Yeah.
since then, I believe in everything. I believe in all religions. I just know that there's something more, and I basically built my own religion of beliefs and spirituality and crystals and all these beautiful things. And I
Yeah.
call my religion a beautiful blend of awesomeness, to be honest.
Oh,
It's
that's great.
divine, it's high, it's higher than me. So and truthfully, I'm entitled to just like everyone else is. But I always felt, even as a little girl, that sometimes earth itself was the purgatory that we were taught in Catholic school, because
Yeah.
there's emotions here, there's feelings, there's loss, there's sadness. And I often wonder that souls that have not done right and were the Hitlers of the world, so to speak, and all these just awful things that they did on while they were alive, that there must be some sort of coming to terms
Yeah.
before they can go. And
Yeah.
I think it's admitting to themselves, like, wait a minute, I got to own this. And
Yeah.
until they own it, they can't go above this plane at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. I think that there is a reckoning. That's why, when people ask me if they've been hurt by somebody, we as humans want to know if that person is going to have their comeuppance. I get this asked so much, is so and so, when are they going to hurt too? The way they hurt me. And I have to tell people that, that there's always a reckoning. You can't get away with things forever. There is a moment where we all have to come, face to face with things that we have done. And so I think that for the people that when they do come face to face with things that they've done, and those things were hurting other people, there definitely is a bill that comes for that in your soul. You just can't do that and just skip along into the next happy dimension.
Right. I agree with that. What do you think these souls, before they really accept that, how or what do you think they do to make things right? Because obviously there is some sort of repentance that,
Yeah,
yeah, you can't get away with all of this, of treating people in this manner. What do you
yeah.
think they have to do?
I think that they have to experience what they caused others to experience. I feel that if they hurt somebody emotionally, then they themselves will be hurt emotionally. I think if they hurt people physically, they themselves will have to come back and be hurt physically, until they understand that that's not the right thing to do to others. And some people, don't get it right away. There are spirits that I've met who are struggling. A lot of the times the spirit on the other side is trying to make it up, to the person that's still here. I've had instances where an abusive parent, the spirit of an abusive parent, is the guardian angel of their child now, because they didn't give that child what the child deserved when they were here. So they have to do that from the other side. And they have to, kind of make up for what it is that they missed doing in this world. So I feel that there is a process that the souls can heal, but they really have to experience what it is that they did to others.
Absolutely. And I'm a big fan of watching people that have had NDE experiences.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
yeah,
channels that you could watch about this. And one of the things that I've commonly heard from people is that, when you get to a certain room, you're shown your life, you're
everything,
shown, and
everything.
you actually
Yeah,
feel the
yeah,
emotions of the hurt that you caused others. So,
yeah,
it's like a life review, like this, you
yeah,
can kind of like scroll through it and see clips of time, and you feel what you did to others, and you're basically in their shoes, mentally, emotionally, physically, what that felt like for that person. And that's
Yeah.
the way to then release, to cross over and have this openness and forgive, because I think it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
I think for the people back here on this plane that are living beings still, there has to be some sort of forgiveness too,
Oh, there has
because
to be. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you can't forgive, how are you supposed to make that connection with the others on the other side?
Oh, we have to forgive. We have to be okay with the other thing that was really so poignant about my near-death experience is that I was so grateful for every single experience that I had while I was alive at that moment. I felt even things that were hurtful that I had to experience and that I lived through. I was even grateful for those things. I didn't cherry pick and say, oh, I'm grateful for this, but I hated that. I was just grateful for every experience. And that's when I understood that, it's not for me to judge. It really is for me to say, thank you for the whole thing.
Absolutely. To be on this earth is a gift. Not all souls
Yeah.
come to earth and get to have a human experience,
Yeah.
and we take for granted things like breathing every day, waking up every
Absolutely.
day, having, and yes, there are people out there that don't have the things that some people
Yeah.
have, but it's not about the stuff, it's about the
No,
experience.
it
We're here to
is.
learn, we're here to grow, we're here to evolve. And
Yeah.
we often take those things for granted and not
Oh,
appreciate them.
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I think gratitude lists are a wonderful exercise to do, to remind ourselves exactly how fortunate we are. And gratitude lists don't have to be about stuff at all. Gratitude
Right.
list can be just thank you that I'm breathing. Thank you. I've had to come up with stuff in a gratitude list because I wasn't feeling that grateful at the moment. And you'd be surprised once you start digging, there's so many things to be grateful for.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you on that. Cari, I want to make sure that I put all your links, and I will, into the description so that people can get a hold of you. But please let my viewers know how to get a hold of you. So if they are listening on audio and they can't click right away, how can people get a hold of you to book a reading and to find peace in their healing with their lost loved ones?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm pretty easy to find. My website is neworleanspsychic.com. That's neworleanspsychic.com. Or you can just Google Cari, Cari, Roy, Roy, and I'll come up. I'm pretty easy to find.
Awesome. Cari, it was such a pleasure to have you today. I couldn't thank you enough for this. I think this is just another tool in my viewers' toolbox to another way to heal. And I couldn't be more grateful for having you on the show today. Thank you so, so much.
Oh, thank you. I am so grateful for you and really appreciate you taking the time with me today.
Oh, I'm grateful that you took time out of your day to spend it with me here and talk and share your story with our viewers. So thank you so much for that.
Okay, my joy, my joy. Thank you and big hugs.
Big hugs. Thank you so much. Guys, don't
Thank you.
forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for viewing this, and I will see you on the next episode of Purposeful Wisdom. Thank you guys.
Yay.